Hey guys, Waterfowler41 here, and in today's video I'm going to be installing a dash cam inside my Ram Rebel. So the longest time I've wanted to install a dash cam in my truck, but I just didn't like any of the solutions on the market. Everything looked too aftermarket-y. Nothing really integrated well into the factory interior up until FiTCAM released their camera. So FiTCAMX is a dash cam company that creates factory integrated solutions. So basically after you install the FitCam in your truck, you could barely tell it's there because it integrates into the factory panels. So what we're going to do is go ahead and install that. I'll show you how to set it up on your phone, and then I will show you just some of the sample footage when I drive around. Well, let's go ahead and get everything out of the box. We'll take a look at the camera and talk about some of the features that were kind of piquing my interest in this guy versus all the other ones on the market. So let's get everything unboxed here. All right, so here is everything that comes in the FitCam kit. First and foremost, make sure you're ordering the correct model. So there's two models that they make for the 2019 and newer Ram 1500 pickup trucks. There is the smaller module, and then there's a little bit larger. It's the same camera, same infrastructure and everything, but the shrouds and everything are a little bit different. So make sure that you're looking at their website and you're taking note of the size of your factory shroud behind your rear view mirror so that you're ordering the right camera. Anyway, the camera is baked into this little shroud here, and this replaces the factory trim panel behind the mirror. So you can see the camera there is on the left of it. You get your plug for the power, and then you got a lens cover on there right now. We'll remove that once we get everything installed. Then you get some additional plastic panels. All of these are to give it a nice factory integrated look. So there is a factory panel that looks exactly like this. We're going to be removing that, installing the camera, and then replacing it so everything looks factory. That's the biggest thing here, is that once we install this, unless you know it's there, you don't know it's there, which is super cool. Next thing, power. Another beauty of this kit is you don't need to run power all the way to your camera down to your fuse box. You can, and we'll get into that in a minute, but for just running a front camera that's powered when the truck is on, we're going to use this dongle. This dongle is going to plug into an existing harness up behind the mirror, and it's going to give us our power outlet for powering that mirror. So it's going to plug in, everything's going to be behind that plastic shroud. You're hardly going to know it's there, if anything. You're just going to see this tiny little bulge, but even that's going to be hidden behind the mirror. So anyway, unplug an existing harness, plug this in its place, and then it gives you your power feed for your camera. You get a plastic trim tool, then you get a USB adapter. You need this, or you can use this, if you ever want to remove that memory card from the side of the camera. So right now it comes with a 64 gigabyte camera memory card. If you want to upgrade, you can go all the way up to 128 gigabyte, but that's the internal memory for the camera itself. As far as operation, there's an app that this camera ties into that you could use your phone, which means all your recordings that this camera is collecting on the memory card, you could actually download those on your phone without doing anything other than just wirelessly connecting to the camera. Super awesome. We'll go over that later on in the video. But anyway, camera, shroud to protect everything, wired connector. No need to run the wires onto the fuse box. This install should take no more than 10-15 minutes. So let's go ahead and get inside the truck and take a look at everything and start removing those factory trim so we can get this camera installed. All right, so we're inside the truck taking a look at the plastic shroud pieces that we need to remove before we can go ahead and install our FitCam camera. So there is two pieces here. One, there's the main plastic trim. This is where our camera is ultimately going to go. Take note of it now because, again, once we install that camera, you're barely going to notice a difference other than a little bulge where the camera pokes out. Then we're going to need to remove this little plastic trim piece. So as far as order, I believe this piece comes off first, and then we'll focus on here because we need to get our fingers inside the main shroud to undo the main clip that's holding everything. But this is basically clipped right inside the sleeve here. So if we pinch this, it should effectively loosen everything up. And I don't want to break anything, so let me get two hands up there to go ahead and remove that trim. And then once I get everything pulled off, I'll show you where you're prying so you're not going to crack anything. A little bit of a mystery right now for me, but I might want to get that plastic trim tool, poke it in there just to free everything up. So, all right, so we have that upper trim piece removed, and it attaches just like the FitCam shroud does. So you can see there's two little tabs right there. Those tabs are right inside this little edge here. So all I did is took my little blue trim piece, slipped it in there, and just pried out gently enough to pull this panel off of those clips. And once you do that, everything frees up. And that's all that's holding this thing in. There's two little tabs on the bottom. And just like the FitCam piece, this actually does have that adjustable sleeve. Sorry, the lighting's a little weird here. But that has the adjustable sleeve. We'll talk about that in a second. I think I know why they do that. Probably because they use this on a lot of different models. And being able to slide it allows you to clear that gap or cover that gap on multiple vehicles. But now the next thing we're going to need to do is reach up inside this plastic shroud. We're going to find this one clip that's holding everything on. You can see it's really just kind of loosely in there. And once we find that one clip, we'll be able to pull this whole plastic piece off. Then we'll hop up in there and take a look at where that wire harness is, unplug it because it looks like it's right back there. We'll get in there, unplug that harness, and then go ahead and get our camera installed. So let's go ahead and get that plastic trim out. All right, so we have our factory trim pieces finally out, and then we have our FitCam stuff. I want to take a look at a few things because it's a little more than just pulling out these panels and then replacing them with the FitCam stuff. This is the first piece we removed. Again, we removed that because these little tabs here, all we got to do is, this is how it's installed like that. Oh, woo. All we needed to do was get that trim piece in there, oops, stop moving, and pull this out a little bit. And these are the tangs that it's connected to. Once you're able to do that, this stuff is pretty thin and pretty malleable, pretty flexible, so it's pretty easy to remove that guy. You'll notice that there are two little rubber pegs on here. We'll get to those in a second. Once you get down to the main trim, the easiest thing to do, so this is how it's installed in the truck, easiest thing to do is reach in, and this is the tab that you're pushing on. So it's just on the passenger side of that trim. You're just reaching in there, just enough to pull it that way. Alternatively, what you can do is take the whole shroud and just carefully push the whole shroud to the passenger side, and then you'll be able to undo that tang, spin everything down, because it basically hangs, this hangs inside of a hole, and then it clips there. So when you reinstall it, you're gonna push it in, you're gonna slide that little peg inside of a hole, and then you'll swing this up and it'll clip into place. Rubber pegs. We got this little rubber stopper here, and these two little rubber guys. What we're gonna do is pull those out, and then we're gonna install them on the FitCam pieces. So you got two little spots here, one spot there. I suspect because this is up against the windshield, you don't want plastic rattling. That's why they put those. They're like rubber isolators. Then we need to assemble this trim on the FitCam kit. So we have the factory trim here, and then we have the FitCam. It's two pieces, very similar to this kit. And I said that this slides up and down. And I suspect it's because they use this on a bunch of different truck models, so having the ability to adjust how long this is gives you a bunch of different options. But we need to take this piece and just slide it right on top of here. It's a little collar. It's super easy to do. Probably do it one hand. Yep, there you go. So now that's completely installed. So that gives us the ability to slide it up and down. The factory one was not pushed up too high, so I don't need to push that up too high. So we got this guy prepped. Let's just get those rubber stoppers in there and start with installing these plastic trims. But before we install the plastic trims, we need to go ahead and get our power. We'll get to that in a second. Let's swap over the rubber pegs. All right, now that we got the mirror all set up, we got those rubber pegs swapped over, we need to go ahead and install our power cable here. There's two harnesses going into my mirror here. So I got one up here, that's the sensor. And then I got one way up underneath here. So this guy is the one that you want to plug into. So what we're going to do is depress this little tab here, pull the plug out, and then our FitCam plug will plug right into there, just like so. We're going to take that factory plug, we're going to plug it into the, I believe this is the male end. I know it's female from the plastic side of things, but it's all about the pins. So this is the male end that's going to plug into the factory harness, so we retain all the power down to the mirror for the anti-glare or whatnot. And then we'll have our plug for our camera. Then we can go ahead and install our camera. All right, so we got our wire harness installed. So we tapped into the power here, ties into our harness, and then we have our FitCam plug ready to go for our camera. The other thing I did do is I just took a zip tie and I pulled the harness. There's a lot of extra length here, and I didn't want anything rattling, especially with big plugs like this. So I went ahead and zip tied it up to one of the existing wire harnesses up here. So everything's up out of the way, tucked up behind that trim, but also not hitting the windshield or not going to be hitting that plastic trim. So now the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and grab our camera, and our camera should essentially just pop right up into this place. This is that pinhole that I was talking about. On the FitCam, it's actually two plugs or two tangs. It's tapping right into this little metal bracket here. So this should effectively, once we plug it in, and the plug is keyed, so it only goes in one way. Once we plug it in, we should be able to push that guy straight up, and it'll clip right in the spot here. Then we can go ahead and get our other trim installed, and then the cam is officially installed in the truck. So let's go ahead and get it and make sure we're installing it the right way. All right, we have our camera. So just to orient yourself here, this is the top of it. This is where the camera's at. Obviously, it's going to point out towards your windshield. those are the two tangs that we got. We got one on this side, one over there on the left side. The left side one, or driver's side one, is going to tie right into here. So what I'll do first is just pull the plug out, get it out of the way. We could plug this in after it's actually installed, and then we'll tuck the wires down in there. That way we're not monkeying around with that, and if we drop it, we're not going to pull on the wires. But this should effectively just push right up into place. Before you install it, make sure you have your rubber stoppers or rubber isolators there. You don't want this thing rattling on the windshield, so go ahead and make sure you pull those off and get them installed on the FitCAM kit. All right, so the camera body is installed. You can see everything fits nice and flush up against the windshield. And I'll say with 100% certainty, I feel like this guy fits a lot more flush and more firm than the factory trim piece did. If you remember, I was able to wiggle the factory trim piece. Ooh, my light almost fell. If you remember, I was able to wiggle that factory trim piece. This is solid. It ain't going anywhere. So you can see our plug up here. I had to move my zip tie just a tad to get everything up through the center here. Might tighten it up just a smidge. But now what we need to do is install our last piece, and that's this little trim piece. Again, make sure you have your rubber stoppers on there so you're isolated. But ultimately, all we're going to do is just make sure these little tabs here tie right into that clip, and it should essentially just slide in and then pop right into place, and then we are fully installed, and I'm super excited because this thing looks awesome. You can't even tell it's there. That's the way dash cams should look. You can only see that little nodule there. You got access to the buttons if you need to, but otherwise it looks 100% factory, and that is slick. Camera's fully installed, and damn does that look damn near stock. That looks great. So now let's go ahead and download the FitCAM app, which should walk us through the process for integrating this into my phone so I can get the camera footage off there. But before we do anything crazy, gotta remember to remove that little blue cover that was over the lens so we weren't scratching it during install. But this is the fully installed FitCAM kit. Just a quick recap: we removed this factory collar, removed the factory trim, pulled the rubber isolators off there, installed that little power dongle, installed the main FitCAM housing, pops right into place. Then the last piece was installing this. It clips here, and on the other side, on the exact same connection point, as long as these tabs are in place, everything should pop up. This adjustable collar here, make sure it's pushed as far down. On the 1500s, that just needs to be basically pushed as far down as possible. It gives you plenty of nice protection. But that is what it looks like installed. You can't even tell it is a camera until you actually look for said camera. So, all right, we are connected, and that took no more than 1 minute to be connected. So let me walk you through the process here, because I didn't film it because I wasn't sure really how it was going to all work out, but it's very simple. First thing you need to do after you install and confirm that you got power to your camera is go ahead and download the FitCAM app. There's a bunch of QR codes in the instructions. Otherwise, you can just go to the App Store or Android Store and download it. Once you have it, you open it up. It's a blank slate. You go ahead and hit Add Camera. When you hit Add Camera, it's just like all modern-day Wi-Fi connected devices. It's going to walk you through step by step. What you're going to be doing is tying your phone app to the camera via the wireless signal coming out of the camera itself. It's probably a 2.4 gigahertz signal that's coming out, but it's going to be visible in your Wi-Fi networks. So when we go into settings here, we're in the Wi-Fi now. You can see I'm still connected to my camera. It's LHD. The other one might be CAM is what they were saying in the instructions. Once you find that, the password is going to be 1234567 You could go back into your FitCAM app, and that's all you need to do is just connect these via that Wi-Fi signal, and then you're good to go. So then once you have connection between the app and the camera, go ahead and hit access, and you can see here it's going to load, and now you're seeing exactly what we're seeing up here. So it's just a picture of my driveway. Rainy. I call it free car wash day. But anyway, that's how simple it is to connect things. So we could take a picture here, and it just saved it, and it just saved it to the onboard memory card. So you could export those things two different ways. One, you could go ahead and pull that memory card out, plug it into a computer, and take it that way, or you could just download it through the app here. You can access everything on the memory card and then just download it to your phone. I got a ton of memory here, so it'll work out. But look, you could access it right here, and then I go hit download, and then it'll add it to my my photos on my phone itself. I'll hit cancel because I don't really need that. But it's as simple as that. So now moving forward, every time the truck turns on, the camera is going to turn on, and it's going to continuously set up for a loop review. So it's going to constantly record things in loop, and it's got a bunch of detection in the event that there's a collision. It's going to go ahead and timestamp things right there. But a bunch of different settings we'll be able to play with here to make sure that it's set up to work towards what I need it to do. But that's how it works, man. Connectivity is super simple. Again, this whole install probably took no more than 15 minutes. I think it took longer for me to get lighting and everything set up because it's kind of a dark area to record things in. But as far as install, remove that top trim, remove the bottom trim, take the rubber isolators, throw that on the FitCAM kit, go ahead and install that power plug dongle. Then reverse everything. Install the camera that just pops straight in there. Then install the upper collar. Go ahead, fire up the truck, turn on the app, download the app, and then connect everything via the Wi-Fi signal. So I'm going to go ahead and mess around with things. But that is how you install the FitCAM camera in your 2019 or newer truck, or 2019 or newer Ram truck. I'll post some footage. I'm going to go ahead and drive around the next couple days, and I'll leave the footage here at the end of the video. But hope you enjoyed the video. Hope that helps you make an informed decision on this one. But by all accounts, this is one of the best cameras I've ever seen that integrates into the actual truck and looks OEM. No wires, nothing. This camera is super discreet. This is how all aftermarket truck parts like this should look. But with that said, thank you very much for watching. Enjoy some of the footage from the camera. Bye.